Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Am I the A-hole for refusing to go out with my sister when I'm a guest at her house? My sister has just given birth about a month and a half ago, and I went over to help her with the baby and house chores since her husband couldn't take a leave from work. The problem is, my sister is an extremely outgoing person and loves going to places trying out new things. Me, on the other hand, I'm burnt out. And all I'm thinking about for an outing is how I'll be carrying the stroller across the long metro stairs, the baby needing a diaper change, and us running into the nearest toilet, the heavy traffic, the loud noises. In short, I see it as stress and a chore, not something I do out of enjoyment. For several days in a row now, I've been holed up in my room and refusing to go out with her while she goes alone. Today, she told me we will just go to the nearest park and that it's unhealthy for me to stay cooped up in the house all the time. I declined again, and she became upset and said she wasn't in the mood to go out anymore. She said why I was even sober if all I wanted to do was stay home, that she was depressed, and I'm making her feel worse. I told her she can always go by herself and leave the baby with me, but she said that defeats the point of having company. She grumbled about no one caring about her and went into their bedroom and shut the door. I've been thinking maybe I should have just sucked it up and just go with her, but I don't know why she insists on me going out too when I said I'm exhausted. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Comment said not the a-hole. People should really edit their post, as their comments have shown they are definitely helping out in plenty of other ways. So as per my original comment, it's wonderful that you offered to help, and you are clearly doing more than enough. Another comment said, not the a-hole. You're cleaning, cooking, and helping take care of the baby while struggling with your own mental health. Your sister sounds like an ungrateful brat. Most parents would kill to have someone take some of that work off their plate, not complain that you won't be their unpaid nanny during social excursions too. I'd go back home and dial your help down to cleaning, delivering meals once or twice a week. Her husband or someone else can step up for the rest.
The next story is titled, Neighbor Karen Calls 911 on Firefighters Putting Out a Fire, Demands They Don't Park on Her Property. I had always dreamt of owning a house, and when I finally did, I was ecstatic. It was a beautiful house on the outskirts of town with a spacious yard, a stunning garden, and great neighbors, or so I thought. Little did I know that Karen, the lady who lived next door, was going to be a thorn in my side. When I first met her, I thought she was pleasant, but as days went by, she started showing her true colors. It all started when she asked me to borrow my lawnmower. Being the new neighbor, I didn't want to start things off on the wrong foot, so I obliged. Little did I know that it was going to be a mistake. The next day, Karen came banging on my door, accusing me of breaking her lawnmower. She wanted me to pay for the repairs, and when I declined, she started creating a scene. Things only got worse from there. Every time I did something she didn't like, she would find a way to complain. One day I had a small party at my house, and Karen showed up uninvited, complaining about the noise. We were just having dinner and playing board games, but she wouldn't hear it. She went as far as threatening to call the cops on us if we didn't stop making noise. Despite all of her complaints, I tried to be friendly and civil to Karen. But when the small kitchen fire happened, I realized that she had crossed a line. The fire department arrived promptly and put out the fire. As they were doing their job, Karen came running out of her house, screaming at the firefighters for parking in front of her property. The situation quickly escalated, and Karen called the police, claiming that the firefighters were parked illegally on her property. The police arrived and explained that the street was public property and that emergency vehicles were allowed to park anywhere. But Karen wouldn't hear it. She ended up attacking one of the firefighters. I was shocked to witness Karen attacking a firefighter right in front of a police officer. Her assault on a public servant was a felony, and from what I heard, she was sentenced to 2 years in prison. A month later, people came to take her belongings away, and her house went up for sale. Just when I thought that was the end of it, something else happened. The new owners of Karen's house turned out to be a group of rowdy teenagers. Every night they would throw parties that went on until the wee hours of the morning. They were loud and they didn't care about the neighborhood. It was as if Karen had passed her toxic legacy onto the next generation. It was a nightmare. I had just gotten over the trauma of having Karen as a neighbor, and now I had to deal with a whole new set of problems. I tried talking to the teenagers, but they didn't listen. I even called the cops, but they couldn't do much. Eventually, I had to take matters into my own hands. I spoke to some of the other neighbors, and we decided to organize a neighborhood watch. We took turns patrolling the streets at night and reporting any disturbances to the authorities. It was hard work, but it paid off. The teenagers eventually moved out, and a lovely family moved in. They had kids, and we often chatted and watched them play outside. It was a pleasant change from the constant tension that Karen and the rowdy teenagers brought to the neighborhood. The house was sold quickly, and the new owners seemed happy to have a fresh start in a peaceful neighborhood. As for me, I learned my lesson. I realized that I couldn't just sit back and hope that things would get better. I had to take action and work with my neighbors to make sure our community was a safe and peaceful place to live in. We started organizing block parties, potlucks, and other community events to strengthen our bonds and foster a sense of belonging. One day, while I was walking my dog, I noticed that Karen had been released from prison and had moved back to the neighborhood. I was apprehensive at first, but I didn't want to let her ruin the sense of community we had built. So I decided to give her a chance. To my surprise, Karen had changed. She was no longer the entitled and self-absorbed person she used to be. She had learned her lesson and was genuinely remorseful for her past behavior. She apologized to me and the other neighbors for her previous actions and thanked us for being patient with her. Karen even started attending our community events and actively participated in neighborhood activities. She even organized a fundraiser for the local fire department, which helped repair their equipment and buy new gear. It was a complete turnaround from the Karen I used to know. As time passed, Karen became an integral part of our community. She was loved and respected by everyone, and we all admired her for turning her life around. She had become an example of how people can change for the better. Years went by, and our neighborhood continued to thrive. People came and went, but the sense of community we had built remained. Eventually, I decided to sell my house and move to another city. It was a bittersweet moment for me, but I knew that the neighborhood was in good hands. As I drove away from the neighborhood, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the experience. Living next to Karen had been a challenging experience, but it had also taught me the importance of community and how people can change for the better. I knew that wherever I went, I would carry these lessons with me. Update. A few years later, I received an email from one of my old neighbors informing me that Karen had passed away. She had been battling cancer for a while, and it had finally caught up with her. I was saddened by the news, but I was also grateful for the time we had spent together as neighbors. The email went on to say that Karen had left behind a legacy in our community. Her efforts to repair the relationship she had with her neighbors had not gone unnoticed, and people remembered her fondly. To honor her memory, the neighborhood had decided to name a park after her, which would serve as a reminder of her transformation and the importance of community. I was touched by the gesture and felt proud to have been part of a community that recognized the power of forgiveness and second chances. Karen may have been a challenging neighbor, but she had also taught us that people can change, and it is never too late to make amends.
The next story is titled, Am I the A-hole for banning my niece from my house after she accused my daughter of stealing her AirPods? I live with my husband and our daughter Laura, who's 15. I have a niece, Kelly, who's 26. I'm quite close with my siblings and their children, but in recent years I haven't seen much of Kelly as she has moved to another city that's around 3 hours away. Kelly has been around more often with the holidays coming up, and a few days ago I hosted a family dinner and she came along. The next day I get a phone call from Kelly. She's furious and tells me that Laura has apparently stolen her AirPods. I asked her what the heck she's talking about, and she said that she had her AirPods in her handbag in our dining room, and that now her AirPods are gone. She said that Laura was acting suspicious and being guilty. I hadn't noticed anything, but there was a bit of unrelated drama going on at the dinner, so I was distracted. I told Kelly I'd talk to Laura, then call her back. I talked to Laura. She immediately denies stealing the AirPods. She said she's been nowhere near Kelly's handbag, and that it's not like she doesn't have her own headphones. I can usually tell when Laura is lying, and she's never stolen things in the past, so I'm pretty inclined to believe her. I know I'm biased because she's my daughter, but I do know her very well. I called Kelly back a few hours later and told her that I don't know what happened to them, but Laura has definitely not stolen her AirPods. Kelly insisted that Laura stole her AirPods and starts telling me that me and my husband must buy her a replacement. I told Kelly that that's just not the case, and I'm sure they'll turn up. Kelly even went around telling all our extended family that Laura stole her thing and that she's a liar and a thief, and I'm enabling it. The day after that, I get a text from Kelly telling me that she found her AirPods and that they were in the car the whole time. Kelly seemed to think it was really funny, but I told her that I really do not appreciate that she jumped straight to calling my daughter a thief when she misplaced her own AirPods. I told Kelly she's not welcome back into my home after the stunt she's pulled. Kelly got really upset and accused me of trying to cut her out of the family and being too harsh on her. Now my siblings are mad at me for banning Kelly from my house and said I'm being horrible and bullying her. Comment said, "Not the a-hole. Why would you welcome someone into your home who accused your daughter of stealing?" Turns her unfounded accusation into a full-blown family drama, only to find they had misplaced the item and treat it all as a joke. No thanks. You're just protecting your family from another incident. Another comment said, "Not the a-hole," until Kelly has called every person in the family, retracting her slander against your daughter, and makes a public post proclaiming your daughter's innocence. She can pound sand. I wouldn't trust her in your home for a very long time. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for getting a 15-year-old kid and his dad arrested on felony charges?" Early February, my bike was stolen from a cafe in broad daylight. A friend told me they found my bike listed on Marketplace, and sure enough, there it was. They'd stripped the stickers, saddlebags, lights, basically anything that was easy to remove and identifiable. But I could still tell it was mine. I messaged them asking if they still have it and say yes. We agree to meet up at a truck stop with the friend who tipped me off about the listing to look at the bike. I ask her about it. She has no idea about anything about the bike, claiming she's selling it for her son. After a few minutes of stringing her along and pretending to inspect the bike, I say, "Oh yes, this is the bike that your son stole from the restaurant. I'll be taking it back now." She claims that we're robbing her, tries to create a scene, and then my friend calls the cops for real. Cops arrive, question both parties, but she avoids responsibility by feigning ignorance, although the son is arrested for grand larceny. 2 days later, the kid's father calls me. My number was listed publicly on my Facebook, and tries to talk me into dropping the charges or because this would ruin his life, and kids make mistakes. I tell him that the situation is no longer in my control. Lie. And then tries to convince me to put in a good word for his son in hopes for leniency. I shut him down immediately, and he proceeds to get angry, yell at me for a bit, and threaten me if I don't do as he asks, oblivious to the fact that the conversation is recorded. I turn the recording over to the police. Dad is arrested for intimidating a witness. The next day, the mother calls me from a blocked number and tries to talk to me. But as soon as she identifies herself, I tell her to duck off and not call me again, or I'll be reporting her to the police as well. And she hangs up. She then contacts my wife via Facebook, sending a massive wall of texts claiming that I've ruined her son's life over nothing, and how her and her children were going to be out on the street because they relied on their husband's income. My wife is now upset and thinks I took the situation too far, as do most people I've told this about. But I disagree. I don't think my actions were unreasonable. This isn't a little kid making a mistake because they don't know the difference between right and wrong. This is a teenager that stole something because he's a little bastard, and a family that not only didn't make the kid do the right thing, but willfully participated in concealing and trying to profit off their child's criminal behavior. They're crappy people, and I don't feel any remorse for giving crappy people what they deserve. Update. I did not expect to receive 3,000 comments. I can't really read or reply to them all. To try to answer some general things I've seen repeatedly. I called PD today, and they said I couldn't drop the charges even if I wanted to. So there's that. I'm not very familiar with or fond of the legal system or the police, which is part of why I tried to avoid involving them in the first place. Take your number off of Facebook. My Facebook is associated with my business. They got the number from that page, not my actual profile. Never had an issue until now, and I don't plan to change anything based on the actions of some random sociopaths. You shouldn't have set up a half-assed sting operation. It's illegal to record a phone call. It was a good sting operation, but besides that, my local police are notorious for not giving a duck about property crime. I mean, sure, I should have reported to them, I guess, or I could not have, to cross my fingers and pray the cops actually did something, and avoid the hassle of thieves selling it, getting locked in evidence. I also live in a one-party consent state, so as soon as I figured out who it was, I recorded the call because I thought it was strange that this man dug up my contact info and called me. Grand larceny for a bike, $2,500 bike. $500 is a cutoff in my state that separates misdemeanors from a felony. You have thousands to drop on a bike, ivory tower ruining their lives over a bike, blah, blah, blah. If you think that being able to save $2,500 for a hobby means you're so rich that you can afford to let people steal your stuff, I don't even know. If you smoke cigarettes, drink beer, smoke weed, or eat out regularly, you are most likely spending $2,500 a year in discretionary income. In regards to ruining their lives, I didn't intend to involve the police in the first place. But after the mother started a scene which attracted the attention of onlookers that lost interest upon realizing what was happening, my friend called the police out of fear. If he didn't, we'd be suspected of being thieves ourselves. But for all of those who are chastising me for being pissed off about having my bike stolen, I hope you can maintain this saintly attitude if and when you're in the same situation, and not when it's your $2,500 investment in the center of your hobby that's been stolen. Insert race class baiting here. The family are white, lower middle class sorts. But since so many people are hung up on race, I guess I'll give you my 2 cents. Growing up as a half Mexican kid that passes for full Mexican, if I've got a tan in a hillbilly town in Texas, my parents taught me not to break the law because the police are racist. Also, in regards to stealing to survive, being poor is a valid excuse to rob people. I don't care to discuss this either. Reporting the dad shows that you're trying to be vindictive. I didn't report him to be an a-hole. I reported him because he called me and threatened me after he realized that negotiating wasn't an option. I'd rather not play stupid games with idiots and end up having a shootout at OK Corral. Thanks. You should report the mom. Why didn't she get arrested? I don't care to do so. Even if I did, she didn't make threats. Just sent a wall of text guilt trip. So I'm not sure if it would have even been an offense. I can only assume she didn't get arrested due to some combination of the fact that she cooperated and indifference on the part of the police. Being a middle-aged, middle-class-looking white lady probably had something to do with it. She feigned ignorance, claimed to not realize anything was suspicious. I suppose that's possible as the bike is very plain, and I could see how someone not in the know about cycling wouldn't be able to pick it out. But the whole context of the situation makes it difficult for me to believe she legitimately had no clue what was going on. How did you know it was yours? Not a common bike, and there were still aftermarket components left on the core of the bike that hadn't been messed with. ComEd said not the a-hole. If they are innocent, it will come out in the investigation. Those that are guilty will get what they deserve. They've ruined their own lives. Another comment said, not sure if this comment will be downvoted to oblivion, but anyways, here goes. This serves more like a rant than a judgment. I'm not American, and I'm not sure if this happens in the U.S., but I assume it is. That being said, I find it amusing how people unanimously agree that the prison in U.S. is ducked up, beyond repair, yet when things like this happen, they are more than happy to send people on their merry way to the ducked up prison. That kid and their family are thieves and liars. That is true as well. But I didn't know, man. Is there no middle ground between getting your bike back safely and condemning a whole family to homelessness and destitution? Not the a-hole, but things could be better. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening to kick my dad out of my wedding because he kept apologizing to his fiancée whose birthday it was? My dad has been with Marissa for about 2 years, and they just got engaged. I don't have much of a relationship with her, as she isn't a pleasant person. I don't know Marissa's birthday and don't see why I should be expected to, but my wedding ended up falling on her birthday. When my dad found out the date, I could tell he was stressed. He said she has a lot of trauma, and he feels so guilty spending her birthday at my wedding. I didn't say much, and I figured they could work it out. Well, the wedding was last weekend. I'm not sure if Marissa was upset or not. She is very stoic, so I didn't know. But my dad kept apologizing when they first arrived, and he came to see me in the bridal room. He brought her for some reason, and as they walked in, I could hear him saying sorry and asking if she was okay. Right before the ceremony, he had her on his lap and was whispering, but I could hear it. He was saying he wished she could open her birthday presents, and she was like, I just don't want to do it today. Then he said, what if she opens them and he buys new ones for the day they celebrate? Then my grandma comes over and tried to give her a gift, and he was just so annoying about it. Final straw was during the reception. Marissa was complaining to my grandma how she hates chocolate cake, the only cake we had, and my dad took her in his arms and was asking if she wanted to go out later and get something, and again apologized. I finally snapped and yelled at him, if my wedding was such a burden, take the child he is dating and get the duck out. I meant it because of her actions, and there isn't a big age gap. He looked horrified, and I was like, well, go. My grandma immediately began to berate me that I'm awful, and he paid for the wedding. He asked if I really wanted him to go, and I told him to either shut the duck up about her birthday or go. He stayed, but was cold the rest of the night, and I heard Marissa and my grandma joking about she should rip up the check he gave me for how I spoke to him. I don't know if I overreacted, as he was just having empathy for his fiancée. Comment said, not the a-hole. I think those giving you the a-hole comments need to look at the fact that OP could hear her apologizing every time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you do not bring your family problems into public, especially during a wedding. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again.